You're listening to WWKI Kokomo, Indiana. This is Rick Rainbow. Listen up, folks. I've seen it. Yes, I've seen it. Seen what, you ask? The Enfield Horror, ladies and gentlemen. The horror is real. Just what the hell is this thing, and where did it come from? That we may never know.
If they do find it, they will find more than one, and they won't be from this planet, I can tell you that.
Henry, we don't need crazy yahoos running around with shotguns, chasing after monsters. I'm the law. It's my job to uphold it, whether I believe your story or not.
Henry probably was sincere.
The creature has not been seen since. Nothing like it has ever been reported again.
And right off to the right side of my windshield, I see a shadow come running out from behind Williams Insurance House. And I'm like, I gotta call somebody. So I called my mom. And we all live out here on the same farm and everything. And I called my mom and I'm like, Mom, and she's like, what's wrong? Are you okay? I said, Mom, you ain't gonna believe this. I think I just saw the Enfield Monster.
I don't know what he saw that night, but it's hard to explain.
Welcome to the Ropen Radio Network. I'm your host, Jacob Guerra, broadcasting from the heart of Oregon, Salem's capital. Welcome in, my fellow Oregonians, if you're watching in the counties here in the Salem area, or if you're on the social network hotspots such as YouTube, Facebook. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for subscribing. This is what keeps us in this ministry field. Folks, I am really excited about this one because for the first time in 49 years, the Enfield Horror has been sighted. You would say, okay, that's a little ironic, Jake. You just did a documentary about this back in August. You're right, I did. Went down to Enfield, had a chance to meet with some people, and I have to wonder if some of these people are living off the grid. And that's why I was unable to find them. Or perhaps those who were deceased are no longer deceased. We shall find out if we can. Folks, I'm just going to dive into this one. No need to wait around here. My eyewitness today saw this thing up close, right in front of his truck. He had a clear description of it. Let's see if it matches what everybody has been saying. Let's see if it puts to rest the kangaroo idea, the marsupial. Let's see how close we came to in our depictions of this creature in the documentary. This is Zach Starrick on the Ropen Network. Well, I want to say welcome. It is a pleasure. I'm excited, very excited to hear about this. I'm wondering at the same time, though, Zach, if you're still a little shook up about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. This is real important. I'd like to know just a little bit about your profession and background. We won't go on that too long because I know everybody's anxious to get into this account. I'd like to know just a little bit about what you do and what some of the things you've done in the past as well. You can share that with the audience.
Well, there's a lot about me. First and foremost, I am a Christian. I'm a rededicated Christian and a God-fearing one at that. Amen. I am a preacher. I am a Sunday school teacher. I am a bass singer for a Southern gospel quartet based out of Southern Illinois called Ribbon Quartet.
Wow.
I'm a second generation cattle farmer, born and raised out here on the cattle farm. Been doing cattle for 22 years.
Wow.
I'm a fourth generation wrestler, pro wrestler and referee, and grew up out in the outdoors, learned how to hunt and fish at a very early age.
Yeah.
I'm a, like I said, I'm a cattle farmer. I work for Southern Farm Supply along the Mississippi River. I started the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters back in 2015. We're actually coming up on the 7th year anniversary of the beginning of the team. And that was after being a researcher doing private investigations for 10 years.
I see.
And then we decided to go public.
Nice.
And it's snowballed ever since then. I'm a very blessed man to have been on almost 60 podcasts and radio shows, been in 2 movies, one that I actually directed, getting ready to be in another one. And it's always been, the wanting to know more about the unknown, to put a name on the nameless and explain the unexplainable for me. And it started at a very early age, whenever I was 9 years old in Randolph County, Illinois, up by St. Louis. Whenever I actually had my first encounter with a Bigfoot, whenever I heard its cries that night. And that was in August of 2004. And it snowballed from there, from a mission to go and find closure and to put a name on what I actually encountered that night at 9 years old. And it snowballed into a mission to prove that, quote unquote, modern day monsters exist even today. And it's not just in the Pacific Northwest. It's not just in Nepal and the Bhutan and the Himalayan mountains. And it's not just in Scotland or in Africa. It's usually going to be right in your own backyard.
Yep. You said it well. It's everywhere. Although I don't really hear many accounts from the Hawaiian Islands though. But now this gives me a little bit more of an understanding about you. Say this again. Tell me again. Did you say you're did you say a pastor?
I'm a preacher.
Preacher. Okay.
Big difference between a preacher and a pastor. The pastor is the head over a church. A preacher just is a witness for God, and he speaks the word and helps lead souls to Jesus. And that's what I am.
Okay. At first, maybe I was thinking, okay, I wonder if he's involved with being a deacon as well, things like that.
No, I'm not to the level of being a deacon yet.
Okay. Well, I guess the reason I ask is because, unfortunately, a lot of churches, they kind of shun these things. When you say, oh, by the way, this is what I do, and they're like, oh, tell me more, and you go on to it even more, and they find out that you're involved in possible monster hunting and things like that, then they really like, okay, look, we can't have you speak in our congregation because of, which is unfortunate because you're just trying to share your experience. You're trying to make people aware of the world around you that is so much more than what we see with our human eyes. We have to have spiritual eyes to see as well. I like that. I like the fact that you're able to do that. But a lot of people I know, well, a lot of other churches I know too, have actually shunned that idea, which is unfortunate. But kudos to you. I like that. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, it depends on the denomination of where you're at when you're doing what I do, aside from being a preacher. You'll find that a lot with Roman Catholics, the Amish community, Mennonites, Jehovah's Witness, because I'm a Southern Baptist. Grew up in a Baptist church, and I grew up in the Southern Baptist, but I'm Free Will Baptist now. And, it just depends on, what denomination of the church that you are in, depending on that. And, I've been in this church now for a long time. Off and on, and really more here in the last 5 months since I got rededicated and was on and had Jesus really set me on fire for him here in the last 5 months. And, my pastor's very, very supportive of this. A lot of the older deacons and everything, they joke with me about it and everything, and I joke with them back and everything. But, my pastor is very, very supportive.
That's
and
good.
A lot of people, even in the church, is supportive.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. It's kind of how a friend of mine, my fellow comrade, when we're out in the field or wherever we are, sometimes we'll have people come up to us and say, "Hey, Jake, do you see any pterosaurs lately?" or any kind of glowing orbs. They kind of joke about it, but we know what's really out there. We know what's going on behind the scenes.
It's like how I tell a lot of people, and I brought my Bible on the show with me. I bring it on every show I'm on, and it says right here in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And
yes,
then
he
as
did.
it says over here in Genesis 1:24 and 25, it says, then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, and cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good.
Amen. Now, folks, I want you to understand something here. I just met Zach. Okay, I just came to know him. His sighting is fresh. It's new. I've just come to know who he is just recently. His sighting is very recent. Okay, we're not talking about something a year ago. We're talking about something a few days ago. So I just came to know him because the fact that he's been in that area, just like I was back in August, made me want to reach out to him. And actually, kudos to Ryan Tremblay for posting that on Monster Radio's site on Facebook. Appreciate that, Ryan. Otherwise, I may not have found Zach. But here we are. We're getting ready to talk about something. And I know that a lot of people out there who are following me, I don't know if they would necessarily say this. They'd say, Jake, make sure he swears on a stack of Bibles. Guys, we don't swear here. We let our yeses be yeses and our no's be no's. So, without further ado, we're going to get into this account. I'm extremely excited to just move into it because this is a long time ago when the first encounters began, way back in April of 1973 and into May of 1973. This thing lingered in this village for 11 days before disappearing. Now, I'm sure that what he saw shook him up. And in a way, it's probably still it's fresh in his mind. This is why I jumped on this as fast as I could. Zach, what I want to do is start from the very beginning, and we're going to try to go as deep as we can, try to get as much details as we can. But take me to where you were driving and when you had that incredible encounter with the Enfield Monster.
Okay, well, I'll set the scene for you. Like I said, I work on the Mississippi River in a little town called Jacob, Illinois, which is about 5 minutes north of Gorham off of Route 3. And literally, it's only about 10 miles from Murfreesboro, where the Murfreesboro Mud Monster happened, where I work at. And I got off work that day at 1 o'clock, and they said, we'll take tomorrow off because it's going to rain, because we deal with farmers and everything. If it's rain, the farmers ain't going to be in the fields planting. So I said, fine, then I'll see you Thursday. I'm going fishing until late tonight. And I drove 3 hours northeast, up to the Wabash River between Illinois and Indiana. And I took my bow fishing rig with me, and it's just a regular bow and arrow that's got a barb on it with a string attached to it with a regular rod and reel with a clutch on it. And I hadn't been up that way in a number of years, and it's always been good for gar fishing. Well, me and my buddies are going to start doing some filming for gar fishing on my outdoor show, and I'm like, I need a little target practice. And not only that, I like to fish. And so I drove up past Olney, Illinois, along the Wabash River to fish some of these irrigation ditches that feed off of the Wabash River. And I'd caught me between 10 to 12 good-sized gar and everything. And some of them just were trash fish and everything. I just threw them up on the bank. And right about 7:30, 8 o'clock, my mother called, And she's like, "What time are you going to be home?" And I said, "I'll be home here in about 2 hours and everything. The mosquitoes are starting to eat me up on the river." And I packed up my stuff and I drove from Olney to Fairfield, Illinois, and I jumped on 45. And I went on down 45 and everything, and I'm following my GPS, and I see a sign that says Enfield, and I said, "Okay, well, I'm not too far from where Route 1 and 45 junction is, so I can shut my GPS off, and I know my way home." And I'm just tooling through Enfield and everything, and literally, in Enfield, after dark, they roll the sidewalk up. There is nobody out and about in Enfield at night.
Yep.
And uh, really didn't have no problem. There was no traffic in town. And I got about a half mile or a mile outside of town to the south, right where Route 45 and Route 14 intersect. And there's an old abandoned gas station on the left side and Williams Insurance House on the right side.
Yep.
On the north, east, and west side of the junction.
Okay.
And I'm driving. I ain't seen no cars or anything, so I have my high beams on watching for deer because the farmers were moving that night, trying to beat the rain. So I'm like, the farmers are planning, they're going to be jumping up the deer, and the deer are going to be running across the road. Not only that, because of the farmers, but because it's getting ready to be bad weather. So I have my high beams on, and I'm watching for deer as I'm driving down that blacktop. Well, I come up to that intersection, and my lights hit the stop sign, and I start to slow down. And right off to the right side of my windshield, I see a shadow come running out from behind Williams Insurance House. And you've been to Enfield, Jake. There is that dusk to dawn street light that sits right over that intersection.
Yeah.
And you know where I'm talking about. And I see that thing come running out. Well, I thought it was a deer. And it went down in the ditch, and I'm slowing down because I'm not in the mood to total my truck out over no deer. And right as I'm really starting to apply the brakes, that thing comes up out of the ditch, and it runs across that 2-lane blacktop, back down in the other ditch, and back up. And I hit the stop sign, and I carry a 700 lumen headlamp that I had with me while I was fishing that night. And I rolled down the window, and I kicked that light on. I'm looking out my driver's side window, and that thing was already gone. And this was all in 5 to 10 seconds.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there at that stop sign. Literally, I sat that stop sign for like 2 minutes after that happened before I actually went through the intersection. And I'm like, I got to call somebody. So I called my mom. And we all live out here on the same farm and everything. And I called my mom, and I'm like, "Mom," and she's like, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" And I said, "Mom, you ain't going to believe this." And she says, "What?" And I said, "I think I just saw the Enfield Monster." She said, "What? Are you kidding me?" And I said, "Nope." And I give an accurate description of what I saw because even whenever I was still in school, we used to do those tests and everything where they'd hold something up for like 5 seconds, and you had to memorize as much as you could of that object, whether it was pictures, words, what the color was, and then they'd take it down and they'd go around the room. And everybody'd be going and saying like 1 or 2 things. Well, I would rattle off 10 or 15 different things. And I got this thing, and I just started checking this thing out as it was going across the road. And I give my mom an accurate description of what it was. And what I saw was something that was about 3.5 to 4 feet tall at the back. It would be level with the dashboard on my truck. And I drive a little 03 Ford Ranger that doesn't have any kind of lift kit. Everything on it's stock. And that thing would be level with my dashboard on my truck. And it had dark gray skin like elephant collar. And it had a reptilian head on it, sort of like an alligator, but was kind of short snouted. You could see a snout and everything, but it was short. And you could see it had its forelimbs drawn up like this while it was running. And it was running on 2 feet, but then I saw whenever it ran in front of the truck, it had that third leg with the tripod set up with the legs drawn up like this, like it had a tail drawn up, like how you see a possum run. They'll run with their tail drawn up. And this thing was leaning forward, running wide open, and it cleared that 2-lane blacktop in about 5 or 6 steps. And then it was gone.
Okay, let's stop right there. Wow. Okay. Let's go back to the area when you're driving in. Now, if I'm hearing you correctly, maybe I'm probably mistaken. I'm familiar with that light that you're speaking of, but I'm wondering as there's only like one way in, one way out of Enfield. It's kind of a straight shot. And if you sneeze, you'll basically drive right through. But is this over by where the graveyard is, off to the right-hand side driving into Enfield? Is it that side of the village, or is it the opposite side?
It's just the south between Enfield and North City.
Okay. Because I know there's a gas station that's functional. They've been using it, but it's located out of the village. Yeah, okay. That's not the gas station you're referring to, is it?
No, this one is abandoned.
Okay.
And it's been abandoned for some time.
Okay. I think I know which one this may be. So you're saying this took place around 8 o'clock at night?
Right around 8:45, 9 o'clock. Because I'd already been driving for about an hour whenever I saw this thing.
So that would mean that at this time of the year, there's got to be some daylight still, a little bit of daylight, right?
Oh, it was dark that time.
Dark.
Around here, it gets pitch dark right around 8:30 in the summertime.
Okay. Was there anybody else? I'm guessing there probably was not. There was probably no one behind you, no one else who may have seen this thing along with you, maybe up in front or from behind. It was just your vehicle, wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, I was sitting there because I know how the common courtesy is that whenever you see a car coming, you kick your brights off and everything.
Yeah.
For that whole 30 minutes leading up to that, I never shut my brights off, and I never saw any kind of vehicle behind me, and there was nobody going at the intersection whenever I got there. For the whole extra 2 minutes I sat there on site trying to collect myself, there was no cars at all. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that this thing is anywhere from 3.5 to 4 feet tall, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned gray skin. When we have images of the Enfield Horror or the Enfield Monster, this thing is this is probably the concept someone just drew. I think it was Rob Morphy may have drawn one. I don't know the other other gentleman who drew the other pictures. This is kind of what we all went off of. We're like, oh, wow, that's really fascinating. It's kind of what lured me to Enfield because I was fascinated by this whole creature. You mentioned 3 legs, just like what they had depicted. But it was carrying it as it was running. It was behind it like a tail, kind of like a critter would when he's running.
It was drawn up.
Drawn up. Interesting. The eyes, Zach, did they glow? Did they have some sort of like a pinkish look to them?
Yes, they did actually. Even from the profile, there was like a dark pink hue to them.
Okay. Nothing that would be over the top, though, that would be like headlights in a way that was described back in the day that were so bright, like almost like illumination of headlights. Okay. And you said reptilian head. Kind of like,
yes.
You said croc or alligator. What was that again?
Alligator.
Alligator. Okay. But the snout, of course, not so long, elongated. It was shorter than that, but still you could see a good snout.
Around here we call it pug nose, so it was really short.
Wow. Sometimes I often wondered how close our network came to depicting this creature when we did the documentary. I
watched your documentary all the way through, and whenever it got to the closing scene of the animation of it on the porch, And I sat there and I would watch that thing on that animation of it on the porch. I dropped my phone. And that's whenever I backed it up and I took that screenshot and sent it to you. And I'm like, that's exactly what I saw.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. I better bring this up before I even get off subject, because with all the information I'm taking in, I don't want to lose anything. You know, it's funny, when I was going to choose either Maui or somewhere else to go and do exploring or field investigations, but I kept getting called to Enfield. I was like, okay, well, then that's when you go out there, you're usually supposed to take someone else with you. Unfortunately, my cameraman could not come. It was just me. There was a reason why I went there, a reason why I met Tom and Brent, who was at Ground Zero in the McDaniel residence. Sometimes you're just led for a reason. And then, what do you know? Here we are. I have another gentleman here discussing this creature with me. But this time he saw it. I never saw it, but I could feel something's off in the village or in the surrounding areas. As I went out to like the woods and places like that, there's something that doesn't feel quite right. You know, sometimes you can just pick up on those auras. The fact that Zach saw this thing only confirms what Henry McDaniel saw. Although when you cry wolf too many times, like potentially did, now no one wanted to believe him when the truth came out, when he had that thing on his front porch. All these decades later of him saying, hey, I saw what I saw. And to quote him, he said, if they do find it, they'll find more than one and they won't be from this planet. Well, we have a different theory about it, I'm pretty sure, me and Zach, or might be on the same page with this one. But that poor man went through a lot and tried to get people to tried to convince people what he saw was real. He was very sincere, very genuine about his account. All these years later, perhaps we finally have some closure to that, to say, yes, indeed, he did see it, because Zach's here to show us, to tell us that this thing is out there and it's still very real. He sat there for 2 minutes, and I'm guessing a lot's going through your mind, Zach, when you saw this thing. How do you take all that in? When you see a creature like this, I mean, you had your experience with the Bigfoot. You know, it's almost as if you're being, God's showing you this. He's allowing you to see this so you can come out and tell others too, because these things are becoming more prevalent now than before. But why all this time that goes by? Almost 50 years. I got a theory about that. Before I go any further on that, let's continue with this sighting. So then you called your mom, you told her what you had seen, and did she believe you?
She believed me 100% because she's actually had her own encounters with cryptid creatures and everything. And I told her, I said, Mom, it looked kind of like a dinosaur. Is what I saw. And, you know, bear in mind, leading up to this, I was completely skeptical about the entire thing. Okay. I'd read about it in history books for 17 years. I was skeptical, thinking, you know, I was starting to believe, you know, that maybe it was a baboon or a chimpanzee or a kangaroo that escaped. But last Tuesday, it confirmed that this was not misidentification. Yep. This was exactly what they were describing, what back in the saw.
Day. So we can pretty much put to rest this ape idea. We're talking something far more sinister, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of people believed it was some sort of, maybe just it was a smaller Sasquatch or something like that. But as I read and did some thorough understanding of all these accounts, I'm like, this is not a Sasquatch. But I can't understand why this thing would keep coming back to this village. There's something in this village that keeps it there, or it's subterranean. Something, I can't put my finger on it. What's your theory on it?
It's just like how you and me was discussing it a couple days ago. You know, I believe that it's something that is territorial, and you know, a lot of I'll give an example: mountain lions. Mountain lions have a territory of 50 square miles, and they will make a continual loop around that territory as the seasons change. You know, I believe that this thing is got a bigger territory than that. And I also believe that it's something that comes back every generation or so to, you know, reintroduce itself to the newer generation. Uh, uh, I, what it could be, I have no clue, but I know what I saw, and it was very much a flesh and blood creature. I believe if I'd have hit that thing with my truck, we'd be having a body right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, I don't think it would be a demon or anything, because I'm an empath as well. And, you know, I can pick up on certain energies and everything that is in the air or nearby or around me. And I did not pick up to any kind of malicious intent with this thing at all. What I picked up on was fear.
Okay.
And I believe, you know, because like I said, that night there was farmers out planting their crops and everything and spraying in their spray rigs, trying to beat the rain and everything. I believe that these farmers had stirred the thing up into coming out of hiding, and it was just really just trying to get away by any means necessary.
I see. You say fear. The creature has the fear, or you have the fear?
I felt like this thing was scared.
Okay.
Like it was trying to get away from something.
Okay. Yeah, and some people say, well, I was just trying to get away from your vehicle. Well, no, because it was out there already. I mean, if it's going to cross a road or something like that, it's going to try to run quickly across because, you know, it's aware of these automobiles in the area. It's aware of our technology and what it has to do to protect itself. Interesting that you said that there isn't some sort of demonic presence. And I wonder if this creature is a result of some sort of DNA tampering. Something that has been created using human genetics of some sort. Now, you said, in a way, it kind of looked like a dinosaur with its, maybe the head alone. I mean, the arms have been depicted as coming out of its chest. Did you see arms out of the chest or off to the side?
Off to the side.
Off to the side. Okay.
Yeah. Like it had shoulders.
Okay. And no feathers, no fur, no fuzz, just like skin like an elephant.
No. Exactly. Because whenever my light hit that thing, I didn't see, because I got some pretty powerful lights on this thing. Like I joke about, I say this thing, I could turn my high beams on and give you an x-ray. That's how powerful the lumens are on my high beams. And I did not see any kind of hair traceable on that body of the creature.
Okay. So we have a little bit of description here that does fit, well, actually quite a bit of it, that does fit what Henry McDaniel, Greg Garrett, and Henry Jr. and his sister, Lil, came across. Now, back then, this thing was trying to get in the house, or this thing was trying to get the attention of a little boy in his yard at night, where it got too close and apparently stamped on his shoes and tore into them. We can go into theories or ideas about what this thing is and where it comes from. But I'm actually quite amazed at the fact that there wasn't this dark, sinister feeling that came over you from this creature. That's a start. To me, that tells me something else here. I just get the feeling that this thing is a combination of things, of where it came from and its origins. But aside from that, let's go back to the area. Let's go back to Enfield. So Did you reach out to any of the, like maybe the White County Police Department? Did you reach out to, I know Carmi Times is no longer in business. Any newspapers, anything like that?
No, I did not reach out to anybody. I just, I woke up the next morning, and that was the first thing on my mind whenever I woke up the next morning. And I'm like, if this thing is back for the first time in almost 50 years, people deserve to know that this thing is back.
Yeah.
And so I put it out on the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters Facebook page, and it blew up on its own. I really just shared it on my personal profile, and then it's been seen by close to 20,000 people within the course of 6 days.
Yeah.
I was talking to Jeremiah Byron on the Bigfoot Society podcast Friday night and everything, and he said, just wait till the news outlets get a hold of you, because I'm not exactly that kind of an outgoing person. I don't go really, looking for attention. If anything, if they want to talk to me, I'm not that hard to find. I have nothing to hide.
Right.
I'll meet them wherever. I'll be a part of any kind of interview they want to conduct. And, a lot of people, after they saw that on the Facebook post, they're like, well, I want to know what that guy was smoking. And one person actually said, I want to know how many you put back while you were out fishing that night.
Mm-hmm.
And it was met by a lot of scrutiny and everything. Which
it always will be.
Just like I said, whenever I taught Sunday school today, there's a lot of it. You just got to let it roll off of your back and everything, and, just really ignore it, but still love those people, even though they're throwing insults at you. And it's just like how it says, let's see, I've got it right here. If you bear with me, I'm going to read a passage right here, because this is how I conduct my life and everything. It's out of the Bible and everything, and it's Romans chapter 12, verses 17 through 21. It says, repay no one evil for evil, have regard for good things in sight of all men. If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing so, you will heap coals of fire on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, and here's the clincher, but overcome evil with good. A lot of people, they go and they poke fun at me and joke and everything, but I'm like, you can go ahead and say what you want to say. I know what I saw.
Yeah. There's no reason not to believe you. You were that close to this thing. There was no reason not to believe Henry or his son or Greg back in the day. Or maybe even Rick Rainbow, who had the chilling encounter, or Lauren Coleman. Lauren Coleman was out there back in the early 70s investigating too. He left perplexed. So this is kind of how it goes this in the modern age. I mean, back then you would have turned to the newspapers or whatever you could back then. And nowadays, like social media, you turn to social media and say, hey, this thing is still out there. It's still around. It's just been dormant for a while. A friend of mine brought up something very interesting. And I think it's important to acknowledge this. By speaking about these things, are we giving them power? Is this why they're coming out? I don't know. But it's a good thought on this particular field. Sometimes when you talk about the goat men or dog men, things like that, are we giving them power to manifest by just talking about them? That's something we should all ask ourselves. I don't know if that's true, but it's not a bad theory. What's your take?
In some cases, I would say so. Whenever it comes to spiritual side of things, like with demonic entities or witchcraft related to that, yes. But in the what's the word? Corporeal plane, the physical plane, and everything. I really don't think that applies to that. But if it's on the spiritual plane of things, yeah, I do believe talking about it gives it that power, because I've bared witness to it with me and another one of my team members, where actually talking about something actually brought this thing on, and we actually had to face off with it by ourselves.
Okay. Did you return to Enfield by chance?
I have not. I actually talked to a woman that her mom actually works at the Country Mart gas station there in Enfield. And she said that because she listened to the podcast the other night on Bigfoot Society, where I was talking and I misquoted that Henry Jr. had passed away. But in fact, it was the police officer and his son who had passed away in 98 and 06. And she messaged to me and she said, Henry Jr. ain't dead. He comes into the gas station almost every day. My mom sees him almost every day.
Oh, boy. Did you hear that, folks? We got some misinformation here. Henry is alive and well. Wow. Because I had been told that he potentially died in a car accident because he became paralyzed. He eventually died from his injuries.
He lives right there still in Enfield.
Okay. Wow. How do we miss that one? Not good. Not good. Not good on my part. I'm glad you found that out, because that helps to actually put that one to rest.
Just by chance.
Yeah. Yeah. See, this is why we investigate things. we got to find out more than there is, and we think we have it down, but then something else surfaces. So I know that the others, I'm not sure what happened to his sister. I know she moved on eventually. A lot of them actually have moved on. I mean, of course, passed on or have died from gunshot wound. That's Greg Garrett. Wow, interesting. I wonder.
Somebody told me that Lillian McDaniel actually moved out of state. I think that she moved to Kentucky or Indiana.
Yeah, actually, the last time I looked, I think it was something like that. I wanted to say it was either Kentucky or it was going to be Missouri somewhere, something like that. But yeah, I remember looking back and hearing something about that a couple months back. But yeah, I have to agree with it. Now, seeing that he's still around, I wonder if he's going to get wind, because it would be nice to be able to hear from him, because he came face to face with this thing as well. He was trying to protect his sister. I wonder if he'd be willing to speak with you or speak with me.
Well, that's actually a work, something in the works and everything. I'm actually getting a box of my business cards and everything for the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters. And I'm actually going to go up to Enfield next time I go fishing and stop by that gas station and see if I can drop off a couple of those cards at the gas station and tell the clerks, say, if Henry Jr. comes in here, here's my phone number. Could you please have him give me a call if he's willing to? Yeah.
Interesting. That would be fantastic. We'll have to see what happens. Keep us in the loop. I'd love to hear more about that. And if he's willing to be heard after all this time, I would think that it's been so long that you could finally potentially come out and speak your mind. But it really just depends on the privacy of an individual. They can either be for it or against it. And they're like, hey, I really don't want to dwell into that again or dive into that subject. It's long gone. But who knows? That's worth a shot. I think that's a great move. And unless somebody lived there in that area, it could go every day. I'd love to see what happens with that one. So keep me posted on that one, Zach. So
I definitely will.
Yeah, definitely. We have a creature that is still around in Enfield that fits the description of what the McDaniels saw, what Greg Garrett saw. Now, Greg's story could have been made up completely. But the fact that Zach has now seen this creature, the fact that others talk about the description of it the same way, only confirms we're dealing with a real creature. It's still out there. And all of a sudden, here it is. Like Zach was saying, territorial. It has its area that it covers. But I just have to wonder, besides Zach, if somebody else has seen it but just didn't come forward. Like, no, that's not what I saw. It can't be. Something like this can shake you to your core.
A couple people actually said that on that Facebook post and everything. There was somebody that actually tagged another person in their comment. They said, this is what we saw back in 99.
99.
But mine is really the only one that's really, as you said, that's really actually come forward publicly about it and publicly put it out there in almost 50 years.
Yeah. What happened in 99?
They guys said they were out camping not far from Enfield, and they said the thing actually came up in their camp.
Ooh. Okay.
And that's all I could get out of them. They didn't want to go into
description,
greater detail.
Okay. That was about it.
But they said that the picture that I posted with my sighting and everything and my description, they said that sounds like the same thing that we saw.
Have you drawn this creature?
No, I've been meaning to, but I've been so busy and everything with being on the road and everything and seeing family this past weekend and everything and having church today and then taking my wife out for supper. And I just haven't had no time, but I do intend to actually try to draw what I saw.
Okay. Do you draw for are you a pretty good skilled drawer or artist in any way?
I consider myself average and everything. You know, I am an artist and everything. I can really draw something out if I really put my mind to it and everything. Especially if I've been inspired by something I've seen or something that I've actually heard. I can put something on paper in color and everything. But, you know, I've been meaning to here for the past couple of days, just having time to get around to it because I've been so busy with work and farming and everything and being on the road.
Okay. Well, I'd like to tackle this as well. I'd kind of like to do an artist rendering of this. If it's okay with you, I'd like to see if I can make that come to life. Would that be all right?
For sure, yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to the sighting here. Creature was on the right side of your vehicle or left side?
It was going right to left.
Right to left.
West to east.
Moving fairly quickly?
Yes.
Okay. Carrying the third leg like a rodent would lift its tail. Okay.
Yes.
Gray in skin, pinkish eyes, but nothing that's overboard with illumination. Just a nice, subtle look, would you say?
Yes. Like how you do whenever you're driving and you hit a deer or some kind of a wildlife in the from the side with your headlights. Okay.
Sighting lasted for 5 to 10 seconds. So, did it stop and look at you?
No, it just kept going boogity across that highway.
Okay. On the road, what could you describe off to the side? Was there maybe like I don't think there's corn at this time. Is there corn at this time of the year in Enfield?
No, they're really just now getting everything in the ground right now. Except there was tall weeds in the ditches alongside the road.
Okay. I think what I'll probably do is I'll probably reach back out to you and say, show me an exact spot on Google Earth that can actually, well, I'll actually show that to the audience so they can see, because I think I have an understanding of where it is. It's kind of hard not to, because it's Enfield. There's not a lot there, so I pretty much can see where this account is taking place in my head. But I'd like to show the audience as well. We'll probably be able to find that on Google Earth. Just zoom in into a particular location of where it was. So it just ran across, didn't turn to look at you, but you could get a clear look at this thing, that it matches the description of this legendary creature from 1973. No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. I'll go to my grave saying I saw the Enfield Horror.
Now, I think they said, too, that it was anywhere, I think the height matches it as well. Some have said 4.5 to 5 feet, but give or take, who's looking at this creature as well. You said 3.5 to about 4.
Yes.
Okay. Any sounds? Did it make any sounds?
Now, I had my windows rolled down, and whenever because my air conditioner's busted in my truck, so I'd ride around in the summertime with the windows down. Whenever I was slowing down, it was still that night. You could hear the claws on his feet tapping on the blacktop.
Ah, okay. Was its mouth open or closed?
Its mouth was open.
Could you see teeth?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I can't say I saw a whole mouthful of teeth, but you could see where its mouth was and everything, where the sides of its mouth hung down over its gums and everything. You could make out little points of teeth.
Okay. Any chance, did it cross your mind to want to get out of the vehicle and see if you could see tracks or something like that?
No.
No, yeah.
All I had was a bow fishing rig with me. I didn't have my shotgun with me.
Okay. Yeah, because who knows what could have happened really. I mean, you're just taking all this in. It's shocking. You're watching this thing. This is where people said, well, why didn't you whip out your phone? Oh, guys, it's not that simple. It really isn't. You're just amazed at what you've seen and you're pausing, taking it all in. Unless you're ready to potentially see something, then you may be able to have a time or the ability to lift that phone or whatever you have and start recording. But it's really not that simple. I'm pretty sure Zach would agree on this too. This is a difficult thing to do when you're seeing something that should not exist in this world, but there it is.
I mean, and my phone right here, I'm sitting in my truck right now, and my phone is sitting in the very phone holder that it was sitting in when the thing ran across in front of me. And I mean, this thing happened because from the time that it would take for me to turn my phone screen on and use the face recognition security lock on it for it to open up and turn my camera on, that thing would be gone.
Okay.
And especially, I'm sitting there like this the whole time that I'm seeing it. Try working a touchscreen phone while your hands are shaking.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. No, it's not. Now, how far away do you live from Enfield?
About 50 miles.
50 miles. Okay. If you were to go back there, do you think you could find tracks of this creature in that location?
No, it's ever since then, it came a really, really bad storm here on Thursday and everything. Like, there was tornadoes on the ground, everything, heavy rain and everything, any kind of tracks that would have been there. If the farmers didn't rake over them with their plows and their cedar rigs, the rain would have washed them away.
Yeah. And you say this because you have experience in this. You would understand this, of how this would work. You're not just guessing. You believe strongly that this would be the case.
Yes.
Okay. It's too bad. I mean, every time we get closer to something, natural causes take effect. That's just how it is. But in this day and age of smartphones and gizmos, we're getting closer.
I mean, not only that, I don't want to be pulled off on the side of the road up there, and I'm out there in the middle of the field in the middle of the night looking for the tracks of this thing, and the next thing you know, some farmer is out there throwing lead at me at the end of the 12 gauge, or some state cop rolls up and arrests me for trespassing.
Yeah. Which I would say is more likely to happen over in those parts, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you got big time farming companies up there and everything. Aside from Southern FS, you got all these big family farms. They go and they farm well over 5,000 acres. They even have their own employees that work there for their farm, out doing recons and patrols, making sure there ain't nobody out there cutting ruts in the field with a side-by-side or a four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And that's just something, I wasn't comfortable chancing of, possibly getting shot at or shot or arrested for trespassing.
Yeah. I think I can attest to that too, especially in those areas. Did you, the windows were up, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
They were down.
No, my windows were down. Because,
Okay.
Because in the summer months, I'd ride with my windows down because my air conditioner's busted. I don't have no cool air.
Did you smell anything? Was there any kind of odor?
None other than the smell of anhydrous and fertilizer on the field.
Yeah, you'll pick up more of that than anything. Okay. All right. We've established here quite a bit. And I'm just impressed and amazed that after all these years, here we go again. There's just something to it. And it's like, I wonder if there's some sort of connection. But I can't say without a doubt that that's the case. But I think we can at least go off of the fact that these things are territorial. Is there more than one? I wonder. Mount Vernon, about 40 miles away from Enfield, had something happen in the 1940s. But they described something that was more ape-like. Yeah. This thing is not an ape. This thing is more reptilian. And I wonder if it fits some of these other concepts of reptilians amongst us in other parts of America, like Louisiana. The skin gray. Was it wrinkly like an elephant in a way?
It would wrinkle, like whenever you would, like how our skin wrinkles when we run wide open and everything. When you pull the front of your chest, and you pull that arm back, the skin on your back will wrinkle up and everything and roll up. But the front side of your chest will be taut. But in the back, you'll have all kinds of slack from the skin just from the body movement and everything.
I see.
This thing you can see, and with the muscles and the legs and everything, the legs were fairly muscular. I forgot to throw that in there.
Okay.
I mean, they look like you could actually see that it actually had quad muscles, quadriceps, and calf muscles and everything. They were fairly muscular, so you could tell this thing was built for jumping, like the reports in the 70s actually said.
Yeah. Now, they also mentioned that there were 6 toes. Any chance you could get a good glimpse of the toes? So you heard the claws.
No.
Okay.
I heard the claws just going on the pavement, but it was moving so fast and everything. Even with my high beams on, I couldn't even see.
Okay, so we can establish that there definitely were claws, and not like just toes only, but claws as well.
Yes.
Okay. The hands, were they short or were they long?
They look kind of like ours.
Okay.
From what I saw, they were relatively small. I mean, I've got average size hands and everything. They were about the size of mine, and I didn't catch how many fingers, but it did look like it had only 3 fingers and an opposable thumb.
Okay. Well, that would match the descriptions as well, because everybody said it was 3. They kind of but again, it's back then. They're thinking it's sticking out of the chest, but Zach says it's on the sides. Not long, but short. Short arms?
Short arms. And I mean, the legs on this thing was very well built and everything, but the arms on this thing was very, very frail, like you would see on an elderly person and everything, like real bony, not very much muscle definition.
Okay. So then maybe we can rule out those pictures that you see online that look like something pretty disgusting, pretty gruesome, but not too far away from the concept because we have 3 legs. We have a tripod monster. So it's close, but not an exact fit. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I believe a lot of the people that's actually done depictions of this thing, they just, they over embellish it and everything. They try to make it more gruesome looking than what the thing actually is.
Yeah, because they have this.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. This thing looked pretty freaking scary, but it looks nothing like the picture that you showed in your documentary of the white one.
Okay.
It looked nothing like that at all. It's not like it looked like the Fluke Man head in X-Files, like in the pictures you see online.
Okay.
This thing looked like it had a reptilian head with a pug nose on it.
Okay. Wow. Amazing encounter for the first time in 49 years. And here it is, Zach's second encounter with something that most of the Western society would say should not exist or does not exist. But here we are. We have a gentleman here who's very clear with his descriptions. Sounds very rational. It's very sincere. And I, for one, believe his story. So, what's next for Zach? You working on another project here? Are you going to be doing some radio shows? You going to get in the field here soon?
Other than really just working every day this week, really just focus on getting ready for hay season and everything. We're going to be cutting here pretty soon. Doing that, we got the month of July pretty much all booked up and everything for lectures and everything starting July 16th. We've got a lecture in Pittsburgh, Illinois at the Pittsburgh City Hall called, it's part of our Sasquatch and Other Cryptid Creatures of Southern Illinois lecture series that we're doing for summer reading programs across Southern Illinois. It will be a part of the Crab Orchard Public Library's summer reading program, and we'll be doing that. And then July 23rd, we will be in Grayville, Illinois at the Groff Memorial Library doing the same thing. Then July 30th, we will be in Glen Carbon, Illinois, just right outside of St. Louis at the Glen Carbon Memorial Library Museum doing one of the final legs of the lecture series that we're going to be doing. And then October 8th, we'll be in Harrisburg, Illinois, my hometown, for the Shawnee Sasquatch Festival. It's a free event and everything. We did it last year, and there was well over 1,000 people there last year in the pouring down rain.
Wow, that's devotion.
We just wrapped it up on production of the documentary that I directed with Joe Turry, called The Hunt for the Shawnee Sasquatch. We actually had 3 different states represented in our base camp when we filmed this thing. We had Louisiana and Virginia in our base camp other than Illinois. Daniel Benoit from the ECBRO was there, along with Stacy Coughlin from Thibodaux, Louisiana. He is the occult researcher for the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters.
Real fast, tell me just a little bit about the wrestling background here. I'm sure a lot of people want to hear about that.
Well, like I said, I am a fourth generation pro wrestler. For the past 4 generations, there's been somebody in my family that's been involved in the pro wrestling business. My great grandfather back in the 30s was a wrestler. My grandfather was a wrestler in the carnival days. My mother was actually a promoter for whenever the Paphos would come to town to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, with ICW, whenever Randy and Lanny and Papa would all come. And then I made my debut back in 2019 with Stride Pro Wrestling, and I wrestle under the moniker of Old School Outlaw Duke Randall. He's basically this cowboy turned wrestler, and I'll just be honest with you, they don't like me too much. We did a fundraiser for a school here last month, and we come out to play Chicken with the Train by Big and Rich, and they ended up playing a joke on us and had us coming out to Baby 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 by Justin Bieber.
Wow.
Yeah. And I yelled at them to shut the music off, and we were working heel that day for the pep rally for the school. And I said the only two things that song and this place has at Gallatin County High School has in common is they're both pieces of crap. And then I told them, I said, because I'm from Crab Orchard, Illinois, and I told them, I said, my two boys in here, that's the tag team I was managing, I said, we come from three better schools, Harrisburg, Illinois, El Dorado, Illinois, and where I come from, the Kings of the Greater Egyptian Conference, the Crab Orchard Trojans, and where I went to school at, us and Gallatin County have had a heated rivalry for the past 30 years.
Wow, a long time.
And they started yelling at me, and I told them, I said, and my tag team here, unlike y'all's Gallatin County Hawks, we don't have to cheat to win championships. That's when they started throwing crap at us. And they were cussing us out and everything. I looked at my boys, I'm like, there's no security or guardrails. We got to go back through them. And they're like, yeah, you really made them mad.
Wow.
So,
impressive. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun and everything.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick here.
I'm a man of many hats.
I would say so. Yeah. So after seeing this thing, you able to sleep at night?
Takes me a while, but yeah.
Okay. I often wondered when Henry saw it, or when Greg outside, or Henry Jr., what that's got to be like. I mean, can you imagine something so close to you and then trying to sleep it off or trying to fall asleep? I would think that something like that will bother you for a while. Unless, of course...
Well, the way I describe myself and everything, you know, I'm the kind of person that I try not to let too much bother me, because even like earlier this year, we buried my great aunt and everything. I get adjusted to the situation fairly quickly more than other people. I'm not saying I'm cold hearted or anything. It's just, you know, I get myself very quickly in the routine. Like, okay, this has happened and everything. I've got to learn to adapt and overcome it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I go and this is like back in 2020 after my dog died that I had for 15 years. You know, I got adjusted real quickly to, you know, not being going in there and feeding him and playing with him every day. You know, I get adjusted to it pretty quickly, and that was just kind of how I was brought up and everything. You know, things can change on a dime like that, and you not see it coming. That's just how you've always got to be prepared for the unexpected. Yeah. And that's kind of how that you know, even though it's been a week ago and everything that I saw this thing, it's just like any other encounter I've had with Bigfoot and Dogman. You know, I've learned to, you know, like, okay, these things are here. I've got to learn how to coexist with them. And, you know, that's just how it makes it easy enough for me to even sleep at night, because any other average Joe that has no knowledge of these things, if they come across it, it's going to shake them up pretty good. Yeah. But, you know, I guess it's just because, you know, I've done a whole lot of research with these things. I know what to expect with them because of the interactions I've had with these things. You know, I'm more prepared than your average off the street dude.
I agree. And I think that for the most part here, Zach, you were meant to see it, like many people who sometimes can change their lives from encounters like this, or it actually brings them closer to God. Sometimes it actually scares the heck out of them that they run a different direction. But I do think you were meant to see this thing for a reason. It only helps to clarify and add truth to what has been seen out there. So some people may not see it that way, but that's the way I see it.
It's just how it says here on this plaque that I got for my birthday this year. It's a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. It says, "All I have seen teaches me to trust the Creator for all I have not seen."
Amen.
That's the way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, Zach, I think I've taken enough of your time. If I have any further questions, I'm definitely going to reach back out to you because I'm sure some are going to come to me later than now. Sometimes just the way it goes. But I appreciate you. Thank you for being on this network. Thank you for sharing your encounter. It's huge. It really is. People have been wondering if this thing is still out there. Now we know. So God bless you, and I look forward to seeing your endeavors in the future.
Thank you, my friend. And, I want to throw this out there, that if anybody after the show, they want to speak to me, there's multiple ways you can. You can email me at blimpsimh@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook through a couple of ways with the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters page, my music ministry page, Starrick Music Ministries, my podcast page called Wrestling with Monsters that me and my cousin do. You can find me through my personal Facebook, Zach D. Starrick. That's my personal Facebook page. You can find me on Twitter with DR Outdoors 2021, Instagram, Duke Randall Official, or you can even find me on TikTok, The Real 618 Cowboy. I am all over social media. If anybody wants to talk to me, they can reach out there, or they can find me on my YouTube channel, Zach D. Starrick. I'm not that hard to find. I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to post those as well. Again, appreciate you. Keep up the good work. Keep fighting the good fight. God bless.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, have a good day now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Zach Starrick on the Ropen Network. His encounter with the Enfield Horror 49 years later. Now, some would say this. They would say, okay, look, is he telling the truth? I believe him to be. Watch his demeanor. Watch how he speaks. Listen to him. It'll tell you. I did try to throw some things in there to see what he would do. We stayed on track. I'm really shocked at myself for getting something wrong here with Henry McDaniel Jr. I could kick myself for that. I'm glad to hear that he's alive and he visits the area. Now, he was actually really difficult to find. He was. Everybody else, I found a trail of breadcrumbs. Henry Jr., no. He was very difficult. So after time, I'm like, okay, well, let's see if we can find someone who might know something about this. So I started talking to the mayor, Tom Harbour, who was going to join us on this conversation. He was not able to. He had mentioned that he may have passed away from injuries related to a car accident. Well, that's not the case. Okay. Mistakes happen. I'm glad to hear he's alive and well. That's good news. But it seems like everybody was impacted in some sort of way by this creature's presence. And now, after all these years, it's back in Enfield. I think there is a connection here. Territorial, or maybe some sort of spiritual link that these things are picking up on. He said that if they were supernatural, then he would agree that the fact that when we talk about these things, it's calling it into being, which can be very powerful. Your words can be very powerful. But when it comes to a physical creature, it may be a different story completely. creature matches the descriptions of what has been said. 3-legged, short arms, not many fingers, pinkish eyes. I got the feeling that there was something going on in Enfield behind the scenes. But it probably doesn't just seek out Enfield. It's got the whole surrounding counties, White County, Fairfield, McLeansboro. It's probably got a wide stretch, even up to Mount Vernon. But I think we can pretty much put to rest that this is an ape based on eyewitness testimony. Okay, that's based on testimony. A lot of people wondered if it was some sort of small Sasquatch. It's not. I never once for a minute thought that this creature was a Sasquatch of some sort. No. Instead, we have something that's more of genetic mutation, potentially DNA tampering. And then it's like, wad it up in a ball. Here you go, Enfield. There's your horror. By the way, I can't really say Enfield Horror. Most people think I'm saying Enfield Horror. And I got to tell you, when I walked into the diner in Fairfield, I tried to bring up Enfield Horror, and I accidentally said whore. And the guy sitting at the table said, I don't recommend that kind of line of work. So, this is a huge sighting. After all these years, here it is. Now, some people would say, okay, look, Jake, he probably just saw your video and then decided to come forward with this. I'm not buying that. Again, I have not known Zach for more than a few days now. I first heard about his encounter through Monster Radio, a posting by Ryan Tremblay. Glad I was able to get a hold of him. Glad he was so freely and willing to talk to me. As you can see, he's a pretty nice guy, willing to talk to anybody who's interested in his account. I was. So something tells me that this is going to happen again. In the day and age of smartphones, we're bound to get something. It's too bad, really too bad, that he couldn't get the tracks. But who in their right mind would want to jump out of their car and go after this thing, this hideous looking thing that shouldn't exist, that's right there in front of their vehicle? I would, though. You said, oh, no, you wouldn't. Oh, yes, I would. I would. That's me, though. Not everybody. Appreciate Zach being here. Appreciate all of you listening. This was an important sighting. I knew something like this someday would surface. This is a very unique, fascinating case. And I think we're going to have more in the years to come. Keep your eyes peeled. So I'll say goodbye for now. In the meantime, seek the truth. May God bless every one of you on the other side of this screen. I'm your host, Jacob Guerra. Thank you so much for watching on the Ropen Radio Network.